Hello, everyone. My name is Michael Hughes, and I am the new TASL Coordinator for the department. Today, we're going to be covering information about the TASL Academy, some changes to the Academy. We're also going to be looking at what's written in state statute, and last but not least, giving some guidance for superintendent designees, TASL configurators, and then obviously detailing information about the ILLs directly. So I'm going to stop my camera, and we're going to go ahead and get started. So as you see here, we have the pillars of our office, the best for all practices, academic, student readiness, and educators. With this being tied to the TASL Academy, it touches all three, but it's firmly in the educator section, obviously dealing with administrators and their administrator licenses. What you see here is a breakdown of the educator licensure team. You can see that we are led by our Assistant Commissioner, Brooke Amos, followed by our Senior Director of Licensure, Ms. Taylor Reed. And then you see how it's broken into the three branches, where I'm off to the far right as the TASL coordinator. So our agenda for today, we're going to look at state statute requirements, a new recertification pathway. We'll detail why that's being implemented, changes to the initial academy, guidance on ILL advancement, and then we're going to kind of talk about a partnership that I really need assistance with from the district, just to ensure that I have all the correct information for to make sure that the academies get the people enrolled that need to be enrolled. So for state statute, there's really two portions of state statute that I really want to focus on the most. The first is the very first section, where it details each principal and administrator shall be required to attend the Principal Administrator Academy for Instruction at least once every 5 years. And then the last portion I really want to focus on is the last section, where it details the requirement for attendance at the Principal Administrator Academy shall be optional to any principal, supervisor, or other administrator who would otherwise be required to attend, however classified, with 15 or more years of experience as a principal, supervisor, or administrator unless the local Board of Education requires such attendance. And so you may be thinking, what does all that mean to me? And so I'm going to focus most of this on the very first section, and that is, it has been my understanding that a lot of administrators have often thought of the TASL Academy as like a one and done, and that's actually not true. An administrator or supervisor in a TASL manager role must complete the TASL Academy once every 5 years. And this does include individuals who completed previous academies, such as GASL, which predated the TASL Academy. So it's not a one and done. They are expected to complete the academy once every 5 years. Now, to help us meet these requirements for statute, there will be a total of 4 different academies this upcoming cycle. There'll be an initial TASL Principal AP Academy, an initial TASL Supervisor Academy, and then 2 new recertification pathways, which allow for those administrators who had completed academies previously to make sure they're in compliance with state statute. And we'll get into the specifics of those a little bit more here shortly. Priority enrollment will be given to any instructional leader with 5 or more years of TASL-mandated experience who has not completed any TASL Academy. So one of the main things that I really want to focus on is people that are out of compliance, which to no fault of their own, we really want to get them in compliance. And so if they're at year 5 or more since they completed an academy, or they never completed an academy, they will be we will make sure that if they enroll, then they will be enrolled in the academy. Like when they fill out the enrollment form, they'll be the ones that get priority registration. So we're really trying to focus on getting them in compliance with state statute as quickly as we possibly can. To ensure that administrators and supervisors in task management roles can meet the recertification requirement, our office has instituted a recertification pathway for any administrator who's completed an initial academy. So it didn't make sense for someone that has completed an academy previously to go through the same academy as someone who's never done one. So that's why we're instituting these 2 new pathways, the recertification pathways, specifically for administrators or supervisors that had completed initial academies previously. And then the last thing has to do with what was the last section of statute that I really wanted to talk about. And that is that there is one exception for individuals in TASL mandated roles to have to basically, they won't have to take they won't have to complete the academy. And that is if they have that TASL exemption status. And I'm sure most of you are aware, but to get TASL exemption, you have to have 15 years or more in a TASL mandated role. So once they get TASL exemption, they no longer have to complete the academies. So until that point, they are expected to complete it once every 5 years. But once they get to TASL exemption, they do not have to complete it again. All right, we're going to shift our focus to the new recertification academies. And so there, like I said before, there will be two recertification academies, one supervisor and one principal AP academy. The main thing I want to really kind of detail at a high level is that these will be asynchronous academies through learning modules in our new LMS system, which is the Teach All or part of the Best for All system. And these recertification pathways will only be one semester. So they will be the fall semester. And so registration for these recertification academies, both the recertification supervisor and recertification principal AP, will open on July 22nd. At the conclusion of the academy, the administrators will be awarded 7 TASL credits for their T Encompass account for completion of the academy. And so again, this academy is only for individuals who had completed initial academies previously. If they've never done a state mandated or a state led instructional leader academy, then they would have to go the initial academy route, not the recertification. This is only for administrators who have completed academies previously. All right, so changes to the initial principal AP TASL Academy. So I kind of wanted to go over this on a high level. The goal was to connect instructional best practices to current school operations to improve instruction at the participants assigned school. And so we're really going to be focusing the initial principal AP Academy on really 3 items. Quarter one is going to be tied to team evaluations. Quarter two is tied to ELA IPG. Quarter three is the math IPG. And then quarter four is a summative of all of them. We're going to be really kind of focusing on them, using these, learning them in depth more, and then obviously reflecting on what they learned and their usage of these instructional tools. And so just at a high level, I really wanted to detail what the initial Principal AP Academy is focused on. I do want to say that this academy will remain as a year-long academy. As you can see there, it has 4 broken up into quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4, but it is the only academy that'll be a year long. So the initial Principal AP Academy will be fall and spring semester. The initial Supervisor Academy, I'm not changing the length of that academy. That has always been a spring semester only, so that is what it will continue to be. And then the recertification pathways will be 1 semester, and they will be in the fall academies. All right, ILL advancement. So here, I really want to focus on the roles of the tassel configurator and kind of detailing or not, excuse me, not the tassel configurator, excuse me, the superintendent designee, because this is really where the superintendent designee and the ILL really come into contact with one another. It's dealing with this advancement transaction. So at the conclusion of an initial principal AP or an initial supervisor academy, completers will be provided resources to advance their licenses. I can tell you that from this most recent academy completion, I created a guidance document as well as a video recording for administrators to use to help them with these transactions. And what we have found is that there is a misconception amongst administrators about what it means, like what the requirements actually are for advancement. They all know that they need to complete the TASL Academy to advance. And then a lot of them believe they just needed to have 2 years of experience as an administrator. The reality of it is that's actually not true. Um, they are correct that it's 2 years of experience, but those years are tied to 2 things. They have to have 2 years of experience as a successful principal, assistant principal, or instructional supervisor, as demonstrated by overall evaluation ratings of at expectations or higher. So it's tied to their evaluations. They do have to show in their evaluations that they have 2 years of successful evaluation scores at expectations or better. The other portion of this is that at the very end of licensure rule that you see on the screen, it details that it has to be during the most recent validity period of the ILL. And so what that really means is an ILL is 3 years. They have to get 2 years of successful experience with qualifying evaluations during that 3-year period. When an administrator renews their ILL, that starts their validity period over. Similar to if an educator renews their educator license, we do not let them submit PDPs from previous of that renewal date. The same is true here. When they renew the license, it starts that 2-year period over. So they can't actually use years of experience from their previous validity period. It has to be during that current ILL period. And that's really something that when a superintendent designee submits the recommendation on the transaction, they are saying that they verify that this administrator has 2 years of successful experience um, with meeting the evaluation requirements and that those 2 years are on their current validity period of the license. And so, like I said, the real issue arises when an administrator renews their license and it starts their validity period over. The truth is, they have to then get those 2 years after that renewal date. Now, I will say this, if they complete the academy, there will be a banner that's put on their TASL tab. Even if they renew their license, that banner doesn't go away. So they'll be able to advance it once they meet that 2-year requirement on the new validity period of their license. All right, so what do I need assistance from the districts? The first little section there is information that you may want to get for yourself. Knowing about your administrators in their tassel mandated positions, you could just ask three simple questions. I'm not saying you have to do this, but you could ask them, have they ever completed an academy? How many years they've been in a tassel mandated position? And if they have completed an academy, how many years has been since they completed it? This is for your own record so that you can kind of get an idea of, when these individuals need to be going through the academy, like are they getting close to that 5-year mark? I will say that when it comes to me and the department, I'm going to be sending out a form stack, and you may have already received it already, that details all this information for me. And so once you get the form stack that is about administrators and their years of experience, you will need to send that form to all of your principals, all of your APs, and anyone that's an instructional supervisor that is listed as a TASL mandated position. When they go through the form, it will provide me with all this information. And then I'll be able to break it down knowing how many individuals are at that 5-year mark or past it so that I can make sure they get the priority enrollment. Um, and the form will break them down into should they go the initial route or should they go the recertification route. You will not have to worry about what's on the form per se, because that's really data that I'm collecting, just to make sure that I have a rough estimate on how many people need to be enrolled in these academies for this year that are either past the 5-year marker or at the 5-year marker that's drawn out in state statute. And this is just kind of a simple breakdown of how the form's going to work for me. It's basically going to detail have they ever completed an academy previously? If they say yes or no, then it'll then kind of detail, what's their role. And then from there, it will guide me to know which academy that they would need to be listed in so that I can collect the data and have it ready to go. And so before we sign off, there is a couple things that I do want to talk about. So I talked about the superintendent designee, but I have not really talked about the TASL configurator. The truth is the TASL configurator's role is going to stay largely the same. They will be the ones responsible for processing TASL submissions. Something you may want to make note of for your administrators is if they attend a multi-day training, they cannot submit each day individually as a TASL request. I know that sometimes events provide them multiple certificates, one for each day. They will need to get one certificate that has all their TASL hours on it because the truth is the way the system works. they can only submit one request per event. So they need to get one certificate that has all their accumulated hours from the whole training. Whether if it's a 3-day training, it needs to have all three days on that one certificate and the hours they accumulated so that they only submit it once. The other item I want to talk about very quickly is the reactivations of ILLs. This is not the same as renewals. Reactivations are for ILLs that have expired. There are currently only two pathways to reactivate an ILL. So again, this is only for ILLs that have expired. But if you ever have an administrator has their ILL expire, they either have to have a passing score on the SLA 6990, which is the currently required assessment, or they have to have a current valid and active out-of-state professional level administrator license to reactivate it. I bring this up because I would really stress to your administrators how important it is to keep their ILLs active and to make sure they meet their renewal requirements and not let the license expire. So again, this is reactivation, it's not renewal. If it ever expires, those are the two pathways they have. But I would really encourage them to make sure they meet the renewal requirements for their ILL. Something else I want to detail about the Academy. I know in years past that individuals with ILLAs have been allowed to enroll in the Academy. The truth is, we are not going to do that anymore. They will have to have either an ILL or an ILLP to be enrolled in the Academy. And the reason why is because there are administrators that have an ILLA um, and they believe that if they complete the academy, they will not have to complete the requirements to get the ILL, that they would be able to directly go from the ILLA to the ILLP, and that is just not the case. So to prevent that issue or confusion in the future, we will not be allowing individuals with ILLAs to enroll in the TASL academies. They have to have either an ILL or an ILLP. So if you ever have any questions, you can actually see the TASL information email. I'm the one who primarily monitors that email. If you ever have a question, just reach out to that email inbox, and I will try to get back to you within a 48-hour period. Um, that's really my goal turnaround time. If it's ever past that, it's not much longer than a day or so after that. And usually, if I know it's going to be longer to give you an answer, I'll let you know in an email response that it may take a few days that we're looking into it. But I really appreciate your time listening to this training, and I look forward to working and partnering with all the districts in the TASL Academy. And so I'm really excited, and I cannot wait to work with each and every single one of you. Thank you.